Family, it's Jerry coming to you from the Rhythmia Life Advancement Center in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. It's a wonderful day in Guanacaste, but it always is, especially on Tuesdays when I get the opportunity to chat with all of you. What's Rhythmia? Rhythmia is a life advancement center that uses a multitude of modalities to bring about the most amazing transformations one could experience in 1 week. What do we use? We use breath work, meditation, metaphysical teachings, Michael Beckwith's Answers You program, plant medicine in the form of ayahuasca 4 times, breath work, meditation, amazing food, the cleanse, and more, individual counseling and help, all wrapped into one amazing week that brings about something called a soul reclamation or a soul merger. And it is an amazing time. So a little bit about the statistics of Rhythmia. Just under 17,000 people have come through the doors. 98.31%, that's 983 out of every 1,000, report a life-changing miracle during their stay. We have over 2,500 5-star TripAdvisor reviews. This is an amazing place, and all kinds of people from all walks of life come here. Our board of directors is amazing. Jack Canfield, author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, 50 million copies sold. Kelly Slater, the world's greatest surfer of all time. Michael Bernard Beckwith, the founder of the Agape Spiritual Center in Los Angeles. Martin Luther King's son, Martin, a civil rights leader in his own right. Ron White, the comedian. Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer. Tony Coe, the Fortune 100 business lady. Earl Kosky, the amazing business person. Dr. Jeff McNary, my good friend, all on the board of directors of Rhythmia. Brandy Sabella, thought leader, spiritual leader on the board. All of these people came here, had this amazing experience, and decided to lend their name to this program because it's life-changing. It's amazing. And what happens? Well, at the end of the week, 98 out of 100 people have this thing happen, and then they decide to become a beneficial presence on the planet. They decide to become a beneficial presence on the planet. And in so doing, they give their life back to God. That's really what happens. They choose the light, and they choose making their life affect the lives of others in a positive way. That's what becoming a beneficial presence on the planet is. This is my first transmission. I do them in 10s. We just got done 10 last week, and this is called Ceremony Stories, as they relate to becoming a beneficial presence on the planet. So in the ordinary course of business, I say that people merge. They want to become a beneficial presence. And what does that mean? Well, it's basically a minimum of a 10-year commitment to obtain mastery over a particular thing that's going to bring pain relief, insights, joy, and happiness to the planet. That's it. How can it be done? It can be done through your marriage, through giving birth to children, to having a family, to being a grandmother or grandfather, to starting a business, a restaurant, to becoming a healer, a yoga professional, a Reiki professional, whatever you decide, your way of being a beneficial presence. It can be from being an investment banker or a mortgage broker or a small business owner or a pizza shop owner, however you want to bring your joy to the world. Now, once you decide to do it, to obtain mastery, excuse me, is usually a minimum of a 10-year ordeal. And this quest, as I like to call it, of becoming a beneficial presence will be wrought with challenges and failures and successes and opportunities. It becomes a ceremony unto itself. It becomes a ceremony unto itself. One of the byproducts of being successful in that ceremony, and that means becoming successful at becoming a beneficial presence on the planet, is the energetic equivalent that comes in the form of money or currency. That's one of the benefits. The other benefits are a sincere feeling of well-being, a true feeling of well-being. And that usually comes from adopting an attitude of gratitude during our journey, during our 10-year minimum ordeal, right? So that is the becoming a beneficial presence on the planet. Now, one of my ceremony stories is where, you know, people get caught between picking sides of masculine and feminine energy. And sometimes we even say, okay, this one energy is the right energy. And that is so untrue. In order for you to be a whole person, you have to have both. We've already seen a million studies that dictate that even in a household, having both is critically important to the success and well-being of children. But having, understanding, and accepting both in you is an imperative part to this becoming a beneficial presence. As a matter of fact, we can't have the end product without understanding both. And one of the ceremonies that was the most important to me, and I've done 339, I believe. It might be 340. I write each one down, and it gets hard to remember without looking at it. But there have probably been 20 of them that have been mind-blowingly life-changing. And the one that comes to mind that is super, super, super important for today is the understanding of the opposites and the being able to hold those opposites without being in conflict yourself. So these two energies are going to be within you during your journey. And instead of fighting with yourself over which one is in charge, at different times in our life, we're governed by different things. If you ever watch a warrior, let's say a male archetypical warrior, who fights the big battle, and yet his wife gives birth, and an hour before he was defending his country, and in that hour later he's cuddling a baby and comforting a mother. That's not all masculine. That's masculine and feminine energies embodied in one person. And to get this thing right, to really get the absolute, to get the quan, to get the complete benefit of this existence, we have to encompass both. Now, one of them, we have to encompass it and let the one lead that is needed to lead. There are times when you're going to have to let your masculine energy bubble up to the top. And there are times when you're going to have to let your feminine energy bubble up to the top. If you get connected to one of them and reject the other one during your 10-year or more quest, you're going to quit, because this conflict will be overwhelming. It's the accepting and use of both that allows you to have this experience and to be able to honor your agreement with yourself during the journey. So one thing that I see, and I deal with a lot of what I will call uber successful people, and what these uber successful people have, they have some non-breakable agreements with themselves. There are these agreements that they have as sacrosanct that they can't break. And usually what they are is something about exercise early in the morning, something about diet during the day, and something about prayer or devotion, however you want to wrap that up, whether that's in yoga or meditation or breath work or spiritual mind treatments or conventional prayer, whatever that is. Now, our agreement to make that uncancelable in spite of whoever happens to be running our show during that day, whether we're being ruled by the masculine or the feminine, and to honor that and still honor those agreements will dictate your success, because what the number one ingredient of success in becoming a beneficial presence and becoming a tremendous athlete in a given sport or a tremendous musician or a tremendous business leader is grit. And grit wears both faces, the masculine and the feminine. So in this thing, sometimes we can get caught up in wanting to be one much more than the other. So in all of us, there's a dominant characteristic, whether it's masculine or feminine, but both are present and neither can be rejected, because if you start rejecting one of them, you're going to burn yourself out and you're going to quit what you're doing and try to do something else. And then you will always be in startup. And being in startup is the hardest of all of the phases of becoming a beneficial presence. Startup is the hardest. It's the most difficult. It's the start of the program. So please don't reject that part of yourself that you're least comfortable with. For me, it's taken me a long time to accept and love when my feminine shows up. It was the hardest thing in my life to do that. And yet it's become one of the most welcome aspects of my own personality over time. And the beautiful part about this lesson in the medicine is the medicine herself has both aspects. If you've ever been lucky enough, fortunate enough to drink ayahuasca in the proper set and setting, you will notice that you can experience both sides of her in one sitting, meaning she can beat the pants off you and then love you to death. So all of us have the capacity for both. So I don't want your getting caught up in your identity of one to withhold the beauty of the both, because both are needed to get to where you're going. And a lot of people talk about this. So what are some of the aspects of these opposites that she showed me during that night? Well, the pain of picking this journey and its joy from picking the journey at the same time. So there's pain and joy in the same thing, right? Now, understanding those opposites are part of each other in this thing will be instrumental to your not quitting, because the biggest aspect to your success is your continued participation, which we could call grit. I love the word grit because it's gritty, and so is this journey, right? So knowing that this grit, this itself encompasses love and a form of torture, right? Because most people, like Jack Canfield, who took the book Chicken Soup of the Soul to 140 some publishers who all told him no, that 143rd was torture. I guarantee you. It was torture, and yet it was love at the same time. So it's these opposites that keep us going and growing in this ceremony of becoming a beneficial presence on the planet. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. Now, if you start this walk and you do it thinking that there's going to be an easy way or a shortcut, you're kidding yourself. You're kidding yourself. This life, whether you do it sitting on a couch and eating bonbons, or you do it becoming the greatest surfer who's ever breathed air, is hard. You get to pick what type of hard you want, the type of life that you want to experience. You get to pick it. It is completely yours. And understanding the opposites of that this beautiful life that you pick is going to bring with it a ton of pain and a ton of challenges and a ton of heartache. And at the same time, a ton of joy, a ton of love, and a ton of fulfillment. You get it. You get it. And that kind of core understanding of this process that is helped by the medicine is the kind of tools you need in your toolbox to get you through to the point that you are a beneficial presence. That's the gift. And that's my ceremony story for today. So please do your best to give some thought to that. And secondly, make sure you come here and experience this for yourself. Make sure you get here because it really is a life changer. Thank you so much for this. God bless you. God keep you. God hold you. And we will talk to you next week.